start, I need to make a couple of housekeeping announcements. Firstly, there are no fire alarms planned. If the fire alarm sounds, please leave the chamber by the nearest door, then follow the illuminated fire exit signs and assemble in the car park at the rear of the building. You have the right to film this meeting if you so wish, but I would like to know before we begin whether anyone in the room plans to do this. If you intend to film the meeting or part of it, would you please indicate now? In addition, would you please ensure that your mobile phones are either turned off or on silent? Before we begin with the ceremony, we've got apologies. Apologies so far have been received from Councillors Blair, Poulton, Fielding, Martin, Smith, B. Stevenson, Rayner and Kay. Are there any other apologies? Thank you, Councillor
Councillor Beavers, Wells and Stevenson.
Thank you. So the next item is item 2, declarations of interest. Do any members or officers have any interest to declare on items included in the agenda? Thank you, Councillor Birch.
Yes, I think a lot of councillors here, a lot of officers will be aware that 2 of the people here tonight, Barry and Anne, are family members of mine.
Thank you.
Thank you for your declaration, Councillor Birch. It's not a pecuniary interest, so I'm happy for you to say that.
Lovely, thank you very much.
I would like to take this opportunity to welcome all members, honoured guests and other guests to this special meeting of full council, convened for the purpose of conferring the title of Honorary Alderman on former councillors Anne Turner, Barry Birch, Paul Moon and David Henderson. I would like to invite Councillor Robinson to move the relevant motion on former councillor Anne Turner.
Okay. Madam Mayor, Honorary Alderman, councillors, ladies and gentlemen. Former councillor Anne Turner has followed a long family history with the Conservative Party. Her great-grandfather served on Blackpool Council and she followed her father onto Wyre Council along with her brother-in-law Barry Birch when she was elected in 2007 to represent the North Cross ward, later to become Marsh Mill as a result of the ward boundary changes. Her sister Colette Birch was elected to Wyre later and is currently chair of Licensing. Anne was born in Blackpool, but after obtaining a geography degree at Leeds University and teaching certificate at Trinity All Saints College, she pursued a career in teaching. Her last position before retirement was assistant head teacher in a large comprehensive school, Mount St Mary's in Leeds. Anne has a great sense of fairness and justice, especially in supporting the underdogs, and always gave 100% to resolving any issues that residents raised with her. She was something of a terrier in pursuing a good outcome for her residents who referred a problem to her. Anne sat on most committees throughout her time as a councillor, such as planning, licensing, overview and scrutiny, and latterly as chair of an employment and appeals with me, and as she was also vice chair of audit. In 2019, Anne represented the Borough as mayor, and as well as doing a great job, she also chaired full council meetings, making sure they was conducted in a properly and fairly. When she felt things had gone on long enough, she was often heard to say, "Moving swiftly on," thus closing the debate, and was not afraid to warn both sides of the chamber if they raised their voices or used inappropriate or insulting language to the other side of the house. For this attitude, she earned the nickname Head Teacher. Anne always felt it was an honour to be on the council and took the duties, committees and needs of her constituents very seriously. Away from council, Anne has always done a huge amount of voluntary and charity work, including as Honorary Secretary of the RSPCA for 14 years and being instrumental in building an entirely new animal centre, raising funds for 3 guide dogs for the blind, raising £20,000 for St Gemma's Hospice in Leeds, and sitting on the monitoring board at Kirkham Prison. Anne is currently acting as school governor at Cardinal Hallam High School and sitting for both Blackpool and Lancashire on school panels. Anne is an avid global traveller and visited many countries. And some of the highlights: walking on the Great Wall in China, climbing the bridge over Sydney Harbour, visiting Russia before and after the Iron Curtain was taken down, crossing Checkpoint Charlie both before and after the destruction of Berlin Wall, climbing Sugarloaf Mountain and extensively travelling Canada. There are many more, but her all-time favourites are New York and Las Vegas, where she has visited all the main sites. And after talking to her, she has had a flutter in all the casinos on the Strip over the years. However, we do not know what really happened in Las Vegas, and what happens in Las Vegas stays in Las Vegas. But if you need to book a holiday, don't ask Google, ask Anne. In recognition of 16 years eminent service rendered to the council, including distinguished service such as Mayor of Wyre, the title of Honorary Alderman be conferred to Anne Turner in accordance with Section 249 of the Local Government Act 1972.
Thank you, Councillor. I'd now like to invite Councillor Baxter to second the motion.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, Honorary Alderman, Councillors, ladies and gentlemen. Showgirl Anne Turner. Entering the council as a newcomer is a very daunting task, particularly in your 20s and unsure about literally everything this place has to throw at you. I was lucky enough to meet some wonderful people who took me under their wing and helped me to understand what to do next. Anne Turner was one of these. It became clear that Councillor Andrea Kay was my councillor godmother. So Anne suggested that she would be my councillor grandmother, and our relationship began from there. The licensing committee is where we tended to meet most often, and every time Anne would struggle using her tablet. So in typical grandson style, it was my job to try and fix it, whilst also trying to remember the passwords. Some things never change in this chamber. Anne was also very clear-cut, spoke with common sense, and took no messing. Anne chaired one of the longest subcommittees I've been a part of, which wasn't exactly a usual application, and we were able to bounce ideas off one another. She listened to all and guided a contentious situation to a successful conclusion, even though the legal team on the table were a little frazzled by the end. I always remember Peter Folsham stating it was a masterclass on how to chair a meeting, and I took lessons from that. I have missed her welcoming smile, at least to me, her encouragement and wise advice. She always called me a rising star, and when I had doubts or wasn't sure on which way to turn, or when I was once upon a time a little shy, she would push me and has helped me to become the slightly more confident councillor I am today. So it is a big thank you from me, and a thank you from the residents of Wyre for all you have given in your service to the borough. So in recognition of the last 16 years eminent service rendered to the council, including distinguished service as Mayor of Wyre, the title of Honorary Alderman be conferred to Anne Turner in accordance with Section 249 of the Local Government Act 1972. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I now invite members to vote on this motion. Can I see all those in favour? All those against? Any abstentions? Pursuant to Section 249 of the Local Government Act 1972, in recognition of our eminent services to the Council, the title of Honorary Alderman to be conferred to the former Councillor Anne Turner. I will now present Alderman Turner with a gift and scroll. Please can you come to the end of the dais? To invite Honorary Alderman Turner to speak if you wish to do so. Please turn to the lectern in the public gallery. No, stop.
I would like to thank Julie for proposing me and Callum for seconding the proposal that the title of Honorary Alderman of the Borough be given to me. I would also like to thank, first of all, my family, sitting over here, who are always there for me. My fellow councillors for their support and friendship, and the officers of Wyre, for whom nothing is too much trouble. I enjoyed the time I spent as a councillor, and I met many interesting people, especially during the year that I spent as mayor and as first citizen of the borough. I felt it was a great honour to represent the county. I felt it was a great honour to, I'm so excited. I felt it was a great honour to represent Wyre throughout the county at all the many events that I attended. I would also like to thank Reverend Carolyn. You may not recognise her out of uniform, but she was allowed to come in Civic tonight. Because throughout my time as mayor, she was my chaplain, and she's become a very good friend since. I'd also like to thank all my guests sitting here and good friends who've been an unfailing source of encouragement to me, not only through the time I spent on the council, but for many years prior to that, and for, I hope, many years to come. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. For our second appointment, I would like to invite Councillor Berry to move the relevant motion regarding former Councillor Barry Birch.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, Honorary Alderman, Councillors, ladies and gentlemen. Barry Birch was elected as a councillor in 2007, but it would be remiss if I did not mention his service in the community before then. Barry was for 10 years a special in the police force, chair of the Independent Monitoring Board for Kirkham Prison, life chair of Blackpool Sea Cadets, and he was a Justice of the Peace for over 20 years, becoming chair of Blackpool Magistrates, then later Blackpool-Fylde and Wyre Magistrates, and later became chair of the North West Magistrates Association. In recognition of his voluntary work, he was honoured in 2011 with the MBE. In 2007, Barry was elected as a councillor for High Cross Ward in Poulton, which was later amalgamated as the Hardon with High Cross Ward. He remained as a councillor for 16 years until he decided to retire in 2023. During his time as a councillor, Barry was a member of several committees and became a member of the Cabinet with the economic portfolio. Here he worked with local business leaders, encouraging them to join Wired Up. He had to deal with the problems associated with extensive road closures in Fleetwood when the tramway was upgraded, and he even admits to being a member of the team that decided on the design of the new Coast Guard station on the promenade, which is known as the Leaning Tower of Fleetwood. In Poulton, he was very instrumental in establishing the Monday market, which is still an important feature of economic life in the town. For many years, he worked behind the scenes, assisting with arrangements for Poulton Gala and the Christmas lights switch on. He was chairman of the Council's Standards Committee for 3 years, and in 2019 became deputy mayor when his sister-in-law, Councillor Ann Turner, became mayor. Barry really enjoyed being deputy, particularly visiting people and places in the borough, meeting volunteers and groups, including congratulating a lady on her 100th birthday. A highlight was going out with the Fleetwood Lifeboat and visiting the various galas, and he appreciated the welcome he received from the public and local councillors. Barry has served the community and the council well. In recognition of 16 years' eminent service rendered to the council, including distinguished service as Deputy Mayor, I wish to propose the title of Honorary Alderman be confirmed to Barry Birch in accordance with Section 249 of the Local Government Act 1972. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd now like to invite Councillor Catterall to second the motion.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, Honorary Alderman, councillors, ladies and gentlemen. It is a pleasure to be able to second Councillor Berry's proposal of former Councillor Barry Birch to be Honorary Alderman. When I first became a councillor, I worked with Barry on standards, planning and other numerous committees. He was always the nicest, kindest, most committed councillor. Nothing was too much trouble, and he always greeted you with the biggest smile. Therefore, I am proud to second, in recognition of 16 years eminent service rendered to the council, including distinguished service as Deputy Mayor, the title of Honorary Alderman be conferred to Barry Birch in accordance with Section 249 of the Local Government Act 1972.
Thank you. I now invite members to vote on this motion. All those for? All those against? Any abstentions? Pursuant to Section 249 of the Local Government Act 1972, in recognition of his eminent services to the Council, the title of Honorary Alderman be conferred on the former Councillor Barry Birch. I will now present Alderman Birch with the gift and scroll. Could you please come to the end of the dais? For our third appointment, I would like to invite Councillor Lady Dilsh Atkins to move the relevant motion regarding former Councillor Paul Moon.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, Honorary Alderman, Councillors, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to propose former Councillor Paul Moon to be an Honorary Alderman. Paul was born and raised in Priestle and went to Fleetwood Charity School and St Aidan's. On leaving school, he started work in agriculture and attended Winmarleigh and Marscow colleges and trained to be a dairy herdsman. He then moved over to work in the family business before joining the Lancashire Fire Brigade and served with them for 32 years. Prior to the council, he was involved with the Wyre Swimming Pool Action Group. Paul says it was a mighty force of volunteers who worked extremely hard to delay the closure of the pool by LCC. Sadly, LCC closed the pool. Following gentle persuasion by his dear friend Gordon McCann, he stood as council candidate and was elected as councillor for Priestle Ward in 2003. There are a long list of committees that Paul has served on, which will be mentioned later. But the one committee he was most proud of was being chair of the planning committee. The council introduced public speaking, which gave the general public the opportunity to speak for or against an application. He and I did not agree on the 3 minutes to speak. I thought it should have been 5 minutes. But it has let people have their say, which is so important. We've seen many people happy with the result and probably many more disappointed. And as those doors behind you, ladies and gentlemen, will testify, have been shut forcibly on many occasions. It was a pleasure to serve on the planning committee with you, Paul. In recognition of 20 years eminent service rendered to the council, including distinguished service as chair of the planning committee, the title of Honorary Alderman to be conferred to Paul Moon in accordance with section 249 of the Local Government Act of 1972. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
I now invite Councillor Catterall to second the motion.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, Honorary Alderman, councillors, ladies and gentlemen. It is with great pleasure to second the proposal of former councillor Paul Moon to be Honorary Alderman. Over the years, Paul has served on planning policy, audit, licensing, O&S, to name but a few. I have worked with Paul on some of these committees, but the one I will remember fondly is the planning committee, or the planning bus. Before he became chairman, Paul, Dulcie and I were the naughty ones on the back seat. Still are. There was always some mischief with lots of fun and laughter, which Paul was usually the instigator of. But don't worry, Paul, what happened on the bus stays on the bus. Therefore, I'm proud to second, in recognition of 20 years eminent service rendered to the council, including distinguished service as chairman of the planning committee, the title of Honorary Alderman be conferred to Paul Moon in accordance with section 249 of the Local Government Act 1972.
Thank you. I now invite members to vote on this motion. Can I see all those for, please? Those against? Any abstentions? Pursuant to section 249 of the Local Government Act 1972, in recognition of their eminent services to the local council, the title of Honorary Alderman will be conferred on former councillor Paul Moon. I will now present for Alderman Moon with the gift and scroll. Could you please come to the end of the gate? like to invite Honorary Alderman Moon to oh, you're already there.
Sorry, I'm preempting you, Madam. Sorry about that. Okay. Right. Thank you very much. Thank you everybody for your support. I'll try and keep to 3 minutes as per planning guidance. Dulcie, thank you very much indeed. Beautiful words. And Sue, yet again, Dulcie and Sue are two of the most loveliest people in the world. Not the most beautiful people in the world, because they're over here, but you're extremely close.
Just be very careful.
20 years go so fast. And I'm thinking about, looking at my friend Kevin over there. You know, we grew up as schoolboys and one thing and another, and I'm going to say, I remember we used to go and play Garrison's Gorillas and things like that.
No, I don't remember that.
Did I?
But time goes so fast. I can't believe 20 years has gone in a flash. And I was reflecting today of people that you know, I'd like to be here, but they can't be here. You know, of recent times, people have sadly passed. There's Ron, Ramesh, and May's here. Lovely May Gandhi. What a wonderful lady this lady is. And it made me reflect, and I just wanted to say, I just hope you all enjoy your time on the council. I enjoyed every single minute. The cut and thrust of the planning was the best. In my opinion, it's the subject that touches most people, the built environment, making sure it's right and the right decisions are made. We had often robust debates, and talking about planning. A dear friend of mine, Gordon McCanny, was mentioned earlier. I don't know whether Yvonne, his wife, is here. Was at one meeting, I think he was at Yvonne's house, and Gordon said, he said, I'll tell you the best chairman of planning that Wyre Council's ever had. And I was thinking, right, okay, here we go. He said, yeah, he said, absolute masterclass. I think, oh, thanks God. And do you know who he said? He said him. All right, well, I know my place. Well, for the people that are here, I wish there was, but we're thinking about you. Thank you very much. Well, this is for me, Dad.
Thank you. For our final appointment, I would like to invite Councillor Berry to move the relevant motion regarding former Councillor David Henderson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, Honorary Alderman, Councillors, ladies and gentlemen. David Henderson became a Wyre councillor for Brett Ward in Poulton in 2007 and represented that ward until he decided to retire in 2023. Speaking to David, it's clear that there were two people who influenced him in becoming a councillor. Firstly, his mum, Lily Henderson, who brought the family from Sheffield to run the family hotel business in Blackpool. Many of you will know that Lily was a lead councillor on Blackpool Council and a mayor. The second influencer was Harry Taylor, who was for many years councillor for Brett Ward. Harry was a well-liked councillor who really worked hard for residents. Harry and David met when they were both members and trustees of Poulton-le-Fylde and Wyre Society for the Blind. Harry eventually was looking to retire and wanted David to take over from him. After being pressed several times, David put himself forward for election and was elected as councillor for Brett Ward in 2007. He was an excellent ward councillor, and living close to Poulton Town Centre, not much moved in Brett Ward that missed his attention. In the mornings, he was in the market square and the Poulton-le-Fylde, chatting with shoppers and residents, finding out what was happening. In the late afternoon, it was school patrol, making sure that youngsters went on their way home rather than loiter with intent in Vicarage Park. And in the evenings, particularly at weekends, it was a question of keeping an eye on what was happening in and around the clubs and licensed premises which had grown up in numbers in Poulton. David has always been concerned for the safety and well-being of those coming into Poulton in the evenings. In 2006, he went to the aid of 3 police officers who were being viciously attacked by a gang of 40 youths. And for this, he received a commendation from the Chief Constable. Within the council, David was Vice Chair, then Chair of Planning Committee, and became a member of the Cabinet in 2015, with responsible for the street scene, parks and open spaces portfolio. And he was instrumental in setting up the Green Bin scheme, which is a boon for all us gardeners. In 2017, he became leader of the council, and he recalls 2 particular issues. Firstly, re-establishing conversations with other Lancashire leaders with the aim of councils working more closely together. This is, of course, still continuing. Combined authority has just been put in place, and the government is now requiring proposals for local government reorganisation. David has always insisted that any new arrangements must have clear benefits for Wyre residents. The other issue was, of course, the COVID crisis. I think it was generally accepted that Wyre Council did an excellent job in looking after residents during this difficult time. Payments of government funding to residents and businesses were speedily delivered, and many of you will recall that the Civic Centre was used for some Fleetwood residents to receive vaccinations that were not available locally. It was a difficult time, and David gave us great leadership. In 2002, David decided to retire as leader. It came as a surprise to his colleagues, but we respected his decision. He continued as a cabinet member for a further year, but decided not to seek re-election in 2023. David's presence amongst us has been missed, and I hope this evening we can maintain with him some ties with the council and the borough. In recognition of 16 years eminent service rendered to the council, including distinguished service as leader of the council, I wish to propose the title of Honorary Alderman be conferred to David Henderson in accordance with section 249 of the Local Government Act 1972.
Thank you. I now invite Councillor Lady Dulcie Atkins to second the motion.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, Honorary Alderman, councillors, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to second former Councillor David Henderson to be an Honorary Alderman. David is the son of a former, very formidable councillor in Blackpool, Lily Henderson, who must have been very proud when her son became a councillor. Knowing this, it is unsurprising that David rose rapidly to become Vice Chairman of Planning, Chair of Planning, Portfolio Holder for Parks and Open Spaces, and in 2017 became Leader of the Council. There was an occasion on the Planning Committee when he was Chair that an agent for a particular planning application stood up and immediately said that if the Planning Committee disagreed with the officer's recommendation to permit, he would appeal, he would win, and it would cost Wyre Borough a great deal of money. David immediately stopped him and said he did not appreciate his comments, and that it was up to the agent to persuade the Planning Committee on the merits of the application and to show the committee that the application would enhance the area and be beneficial to all concerned. From there on in, I believe that agents, etc., realised that David could be fair but firm, which stood him in good stead for when he became leader of the council. I know we all learned a lot from him on planning, and it was a pleasure to serve on the committee with you, David. In recognition of 16 years eminent service rendered to the council, including distinguished service such as leader of the council, the title of Honorary Alderman be conferred to David Henderson in accordance with Section 249 of the Local Government Act. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
I now invite members to vote on this motion. All those for? All those against? Any abstentions? Pursuant to Section 249 of the Local Government Act 1972, in recognition of eminent services to the Council, the title of Honorary Alderman to be confirmed on former Councillor David Henderson. I will now present Alderman Henderson with the gift and scroll. Please could you come to the end of the dais? Invite Honorary Alderman Henderson to speak if you wish to do so. Please come to the lectern in the gallery. He's already there.
Madam Mayor, Honorary Alderman, Councillors, ladies and gentlemen, my grandchildren. Paul's told me I've got to keep this short because he's been looking at my notes. And I've just said I'm sorry, but I doubt it for me. I should like to thank my proposer and my seconder. I barely recognise myself from your wonderful comments. It's extremely appreciated. Roger touched on Harry Taylor, and prior to the important 1999 local elections, the late Honorary Alderman Pat Catlow, who at the time was the leader of the Conservative group, came to my small printing works and asked if I would take on the rather onerous task of doing the printing for the Conservative group for the forthcoming election, which I thought was absolutely excellent. And of course I said, yes, that's great. One, I wanted to do it. Two, it was a rather good job. When I went home and told my wife, Julia, she said, that's absolutely super, that's great. And then a couple of days later, Harry Taylor pitched up at the door. And I thought, Harry's come along, he obviously wants to talk to me about his printing. So into the house comes Harry. David, it's great that you're going to do this. I hope that I get re-elected, and Harry had been councillor for nearly 40 years at that time. I hope I get re-elected because I'm going to be the mayor if I'm re-elected. That's absolutely great, Harry, well done. What I'd like you to do, David, the reason for the visit is that in 4 years' time I'd like you to take over the seat of Brett Ward from me. Well, that's very kind of you, Harry, but at the moment I'm busy at work, and as a councillor you've got to be able to commit properly to doing the job, and you've got to get the right balance. But thank you so much, thank you for asking, and I'll give you some consideration. So Harry then left, and Julia then just said to me, she said, don't you think one councillor in the family's enough? Or words to that effect. And I went, yeah, all right, well, I've not committed myself, so that's that. So then we moved along to 2003. And once again, I was requested, would I do the printing? Absolutely, certainly not a problem whatsoever. A day later, Harry Taylor turns up on the doorstep. David, yes, what is it, Harry? I've decided that I'm going to stand down. Would you please stand in my place? Sorry, Harry, no, too busy at the moment because I couldn't commit properly. He said, well, I want you to think about it. I'll stand again then, just this once. Keep the seat warm for you, and then you must stand in my place. I went, yeah, all right, fair enough, Harry. Harry went, I turned around, Julia never said a word. She just smiled, and that was that. 2007 bobbed along, same routine. Harry pitches up at the door. That's it. I've had enough. I am not standing ever again, David. I am now 80 years old. I've done over 40 years for Poulton. I am not doing any more. I'm standing down. What do you say? And Julia just said, I think you better stand this time, aren't you? And that was the start of 16 years of, as Paul said, a smashing job working with some wonderful people. I remember when I pitched up in here at first, and I actually thought, being brought up in a political household, the local politics, and being the consort to the Mayor of Blackpool in 2002, that I actually knew a little bit. But when I pitched up in here for my first committee meeting, I realised that I actually didn't know that much. And the help that I got from my fellow councillors then, from all the parties, was excellent. But the real great help that I got was from Roy Saunders, Peter Fulsham and Duncan Jowett, the guys that looked after you when you came in here. And they were really helpful. And I found on my journey through being a councillor that you worked with the officers, you got to know the officers, you spoke with the officers, and that was the best way to get things done for the residents of this wonderful borough. It even goes up to the top table up there. I got to know all of those officers up there, and working with them was absolutely superb. I should like to thank my family for the backing that they've given me over the years. Julia has backed me all the way, which has been super. When I got more responsibility, my son Tim, he just said, take the time off work, Dad, go and do your job, make sure it's okay, and that's it. And it has been absolutely superb. So, Madam Mayor, councillors, thank you very much indeed for this honour.
Thank you. I now declare the special meeting formally closed.